Dear audience, welcome to our another program that as faster community, digitalization community that as our channel digitalizationtv.com. We are now again with new speakers about not only fintech. We have a strong fintech side, but also, as you know, nowadays, more than 1 year, we are struggling and try to manage issues around to COVID and pandemic issues. The whole world is try to manage or recover these issues. Of course, injections now on the table, and many injections from Russia, from China, from Germany and USA now implementing and view some results. Not only injections, but also virus side. As you know, there is mutations, and then these mutations from India. Maybe India, as you know, every day almost 500,000 people infections. Yani also maybe in one day 4,000 people died because of corona. And in the average or peak, I am saying about the peak values. So as you see, the normal life is already in some very big issues, and tourism and traveling and any other sectors and lifestyles or living is very changing nowadays. Upon this changing, we are trying to understand and analyze and manage our business as well with daily lives. So today we are focusing on and analyzing and sharing experiences from the leaders of their companies and association and university, how they are managing these tough days, especially because of the pandemic and COVID issues that put us in struggle and difficulties. So let me short introduction to you, Dr. Safa Hanım from Al Qudus, and Mohammed Bey, Chairman and CEO of the Pet Solution, Mohammed Rizwan Bey, former Malaysian FinTech Association President. This is a short introduction from me, and let me start with Dr. Safa Hanım with short introduction, where are them, and some points that what they will talk, and then after first session, we will deeply inside some details with second session. Let's Dr. Safa Hanım, we would like to hear about you.
Good evening, everyone, or whatever time you are watching this video. I hope you have a happy time and you are doing well, everyone who's hearing us. So I'm, as Mr. Mustafa said, I am Safa Nasruddin, Dr. Safa. I am the Vice President of Al Quds University. I am working in inside Jerusalem, and I wanted to share with you my small presentation to tell you about me. So if you allow me to show you some slides about me first. I know you are used to speak without presentations, but as I am an academic person, we are used to speak with slides. So Mr. Mustafa allowed me to use some slides in order to participate in this session. So as Mr. Mustafa said, we will be speaking about different topics here related to the pandemic and the management. But in order to speak about this, I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the Palestinian context. And being a woman, a lady in this domain of management, I wanted also to speak about leadership and gender bias. And I wanted to speak about the experience of Al Quds University. And we will divide this presentation in different topics when my colleagues here in the session will speak also about themselves. So if I want to introduce myself, I can tell you a little bit of myself that I'm an electronic engineer. So I studied electronic engineering in Al-Quds University, and then I continued my studies to have my PhD from France in electronic engineering. And I came back from France with this doctorate degree to find out that a lady like me with a doctorate degree in engineering is so difficult to find a job. People tell me, oh, you are overqualified. I don't know what can we give you as a job, and so on. So with one of the Palestinian people here in Jerusalem who had a dream to find a college for IT, I became the founding dean of a university college of IT in Jerusalem with the help of Mr. Wajdi Abu Gharbiye, Nihad Abu Gharbiye, and it was in the name of his son who passed away, unfortunately, long time before the founding of this college. And then I became a dean of faculty of women in Al-Quds University in Jerusalem. I was also at the same time consultant and technical assistant to the Minister of Information Technology. But after that, I was the Minister of Telecommunication. So I helped the minister and then I took his place. So take care of your assistants, because they may one day take your place and become the boss. But no, it was as His Excellency Dr. Mashur Abdaqqa, who was the minister at that time, he presented me, and he was the one who helped me to become the minister after him. And I was the minister in 2012 till 2014, where I came back to Al-Quds University as a vice president. So, and since then, I have been in board members, in different board members. I am in the Higher Council for Innovation and Excellence. I was a higher education reform expert. I am in Al-Quds Holding Investment Company. So I am not only in the academia, I am also in the private sector. I am also in the NGOs helping for education and employment, helping young people for incubation, like in the Palestinian Incubator for Energy. I am a board member in the Innovation Support Fund. I'm board member in the Arabic Islamic Bank, where Mr. Muhammad is helping us a lot also. And I am also, I was the chairwoman for the Fiber to Home MENA Council, as well as in the service provider MEDA. So you can see that I have a different kind of portfolio that helped me in my management or leadership positions. Do you want me to stop here, Mr. Mustafa, or want me to speak about the Palestinian context? What do you want?
Shukran, Safa Hanım. Let's continue with the session with other guests as well, and then we will come again to you, inshallah. So, Mohammed Bey, let us hear about you as well, and then as your short introduction, and what is your issues about this pandemic, especially you have regional base company, has many offices and many projects in fintech ecosystem, banking tech ecosystem. How you manage? Let us know about your experience.
Thank you, Brother Mustafa. My name is Mohammed Khatib. I'm the group chairman and CEO of Path Solutions. As Brother Mustafa said, Path Solutions we have offices in 10 countries now, and we are servicing customers in 40 countries around the world, from Malaysia all the way to South America. And this pandemic did hit us hard because it surprised everybody, just like it surprised everybody in the world. It surprised us. And having the distribution, the geographic distribution around the world, Path Solutions had many challenges to deal with in the pandemic. But I believe there were a lot of benefits out of the pandemic that helped us and allowed us to be a better company. I remember the initial response to the pandemic within a 1 week, and we needed to take the whole company online because we realized that the governments in many of our offices or in the countries of many of our offices reside, actually forcing many of the companies to go offline and do remote work. And this change, where of course we have customers who running mission critical systems, they're using our software to run their mission critical businesses, and we couldn't afford to even leave 1 or 2 days without supporting them. So this was the biggest challenge for us, is how to take the company from the normal. We had a lot of consultants on site. We had a lot of consultants on the phone the whole time from the office. We have a lot of source code and software in the offices that we were developing and changing. All of a sudden, we have to move everything remotely, and our employees has to access our systems remotely. They have to contact the customers remotely. We have to collaborate with each other remotely. So that was really the environment that we had to deal with. So Path Solution actually did manage that. And as the session progress, I will describe how we actually did this. But I believe yes, there were a lot of challenges in the way we dealt with the pandemic, but I believe there were a lot of benefits out of it that we will talk about later.
Most welcome, Mohammed Bey. Let's continue to go Malaysia very easily. I can go Malaysia now at Rizwan Bey from Malaysia. Please, Rizwan Bey, like to hear from you.
Thank you, Jazakallah, Brother Mustafa, and happy to be in the same session with Dr. Safa and Brother Muhammad Khatib. It's really a pleasure to be in this session together with all of you, especially with the effort done by Brother Mustafa. For me personally in Malaysia, when the pandemic happened, there was a lot of adjustment that we need to do on the personal level, on the running of a business, and then trying to discover and learn about how to adapt to the new normal that we are now experiencing. There's up and downs in terms of how we do things. At the personal level, I was actually adjusted quite quickly because a lot of my involvement in fintech are already on the digital aspect, and the way we work is always on a digital format. But as a human being, in terms of personally adjusting to life and trying to make sure that we are safe during the pandemic, requires some time for me to, understand and rationalize, and that actually also gone through some of my staff members, as well as some of my business partners, as well as those who are working closely with us. Alhamdulillah, in terms of how we adjust, I think almost more than a year plus from now, things are okay in terms of running business and business performances. But the not so good things about Malaysia as a whole is we are now having maybe the fourth wave of the pandemic coming back to us in Malaysia. The number of cases are in between 7,000 to up to about 9,000 daily. And we are now trying our very best in terms of making sure that everybody is staying safe. And Malaysia, starting from today, 1st of June, have announced for a nationwide lockdown. We are not allowed to go out for 14 days from today, and many businesses have to close. Those not considered as critical or important businesses would have to shut down, and those even considered as critical would only operate between 10% to 60% capacity. So this is not to say minor, but the specificity that we need to deal with in terms of managing the pandemic, and how the policymakers' a decision could affect the way we do business. I'll share further, inshallah, later going forward. Thank you very much, Brother Mustafa.
Sorry, most welcome, Rizwan Bey. And then Safa Hanım, let's continue with you. And then what you mentioned, we would like to hear you.
Yeah, okay. So for Palestine, as you may know, we have lots of constraints to work in Palestine. First of all the world is suffering from the pandemic, which is the COVID, but we are suffering from also the occupation, which is even worse than the pandemic in Palestine. So we don't have only I have one picture where we say it's not only COVID that we are suffering from, but it's also the Israeli measures against the people in Palestine. And also we are suffering as women, as I want to also to speak, since I am the only lady here, or I'm the only woman here. So I want also to speak about the ladies in leadership positions and how it was difficult for them, especially during COVID, because the ladies or females were obliged to work at home, work from home, and do the schooling and do the cleaning and do everything, because before COVID you can bring in a lady to help you, another someone to help you at home for the cleaning, but you couldn't because of the COVID and the restrictions. Kids go to school, but now you have to follow up the teaching, and you have to do everything as a woman. So it was really a little bit a difficult situation for us in Palestine from the point of view of being a woman, first of all, and second, from the occupation. As you may know about Palestine, also we have all the checkpoints to go from any city to another, from Nablus, Bethlehem, Jerusalem, or Ramallah. Everywhere you have the checkpoints, and because of the pandemic, also we had more restrictions of movement and going from a place to a place. If we want to speak about women in leadership, we have a very small percentage of women in director general positions or higher. We have only 14% of women in these positions, and also because of the pandemic, people were afraid that ladies go out, for example, and because of many issues, so they become less and less. So we had, for example, in the labor force among women, it was, for example, 65% for males, and sorry, it was 70% for women before the pandemic, but it increased for the unemployment, it increased during the pandemic for women, and the participation decreased a little bit because of the pandemic. So in 2019, for example, it was 18%, it decreased to 16% for ladies, and for male also it decreased. Despite that, we know that for the education, we have a high percentage of female who are educated and are enrolled either in secondary education or in the higher education also. 61% of the total are ladies who have higher degrees from the academic, for the academic degrees. So, as I said, the role of the women in leadership, we have the talents, we have the various women in leadership positions, but we have the situations around in Palestine as well as in the whole world that imposes some difficulties for us to handle these positions, as I said earlier. So here you see, for example, the map of Palestine and the barriers, and also not only the barriers, but also the separation wall that was created by the Israeli occupation that not that prohibits us or hinder us from a little bit about the leadership styles that is known to everyone in the world, about the coercive leadership style, the authoritative, the affiliative, democratic, and pacemaking and coaching. But in Palestine, I think we have a little bit like a mixture of these leadership styles that we cannot fix one leadership style. We have to be adaptive because of the different situation that we are living in. But if we want to talk, also go back to the women leadership styles, I prepared for you like a surprise that there are 7 leadership lessons that men can learn from women. And maybe this is not very very welcomed from our colleagues, the men, but there are really 7 leadership styles that was published about that you can learn from women. Like, for example, don't lean in when you've got nothing to lean in about. Know your own limitations, because ladies really know their limitations, but men think that they know everything, so they don't have limitations. But we try to work according to our limitations, and we succeeded, especially in the pandemic. You can see prime ministers, lady prime ministers who managed their countries, like in Germany and Finland and many other European countries, led by women. So we also, women, work in leadership to motivate others around us. So we motivate through transformation. We try to work in teamwork. We put our people ahead of us, and we try to work in teams. So, and men do not always use this style to put people ahead of them. So also, we don't command all the time, but we empathize with people, and that is something to learn for men to learn about it. I put you the link also if you want to read more about it, because it is really a very good article written and explained for these 7 leadership lessons. So also, you focus on elevating others. This is what I'm doing in my work. I have a big team, and all the time I'm trying to elevate them. I don't feel threatened myself that they will be, for example, more skilled than me and they will take my place. I don't think ever about this issue. The inverse, I'm focusing on elevating others around me. And don't say you're humbled, but be humble. This is also very important, that we are humble always. We don't brag about what we do. Sometimes this is not good, but we usually are humble about our achievements. We don't speak a lot about it. And in one of my presentations for women engineers, I told them that there is a syndrome called imposter syndrome, that we have ladies, that we don't brag about ourselves, we don't speak about our achievements, while men always say their achievements. So I prepared this slide, difference their success to innate qualities and skills. So because he is good, because he is that. But women usually attribute success to external factors, as working hard or getting lucky or someone helped them for that. Also, when a man fails, he attributes it to situational factors, like didn't practice enough or not interested in the subject. So he comes saying, oh, I'm not interested, that's why. But women, when they fail, it's more likely to attribute to lack of ability. Maybe I was not good enough, and so on. Also, women under-evaluate themselves. This is a problem also. So we always try to tell women, you have to have self-confidence, you have to say, no, you can do it, and so on. When women and men work together, women are given less credit for their success and blamed for their failures more than men. And because women are receive less credit and give themselves also less credit, their confidence sometimes gets less or erodes. As a result, they are less likely to put themselves forward for promotion. Women normally are shy to ask for promotion, but whenever you have a guy in the company, he will always look for, you will give me a promotion or not. But ladies, I'm seeing Mr. Muhammad smiling. I'm sure he lived all this with his employees. The guys are always looking for promotions and all and so on, and ladies work hard without asking for that. So I will stop here in order to explain to you in the other round about Al-Quds University itself.
Most welcome, Safa. It is a very nice speech and presentation. We really appreciate it and like to see and hear from you. So let's continue. Evan, you mentioned about Mohammed Khatib Bey, and let's Mohammed Khatib Bey a little deeply analyze how you are managing your project and team during pandemic. Let me ask again.
Thank you again. I actually can listen to Dr. Safa all day because she has two really interesting subjects to talk about, and both of them I care very much about, which is Palestine and women. By the way, Dr. Safa, we have like 65% women in our company, so we're doing amazing when it comes to diversity. Let me bring some real examples of what happened with us when as I said before, when this happened over a weekend, when the pandemic hit, we really needed to act very quickly. And we got, as a management, on a conference call and decided that we have to move everything. We had a big data center in Beirut, we had a big data center in Kuwait, and we had fragmented data centers in other offices. So we realized that accessing these data centers is going to be a nightmare. So what we did is we actually decided to move the whole data centers to the cloud. So we needed to move to the cloud, the file systems, the source code, the emails, etc. And we had a really tremendous team who actually did this within probably 2 days. So by Monday morning, when we left on Friday evening, we were actually operating from the data centers. When we came on Monday morning, we were operating off the cloud. Another consideration that we had to take care of is how we gonna collaborate. Collaboration is very, very important. And there was multiple, there's a lot of collaboration tools, but we have decided, and we actually been doing a lot of work trying to decide on a collaboration platform. But we decided really the top 2 or 3 universe of collaboration, from Microsoft Teams to Zoom to Google, etc. We decided when we looked at Microsoft deeply, we found that Microsoft Teams and the collaboration platform is the best platform to actually do such thing. In addition, we one of the really big challenges for us was how to access the infrastructure remotely. The fastest way for us, for a lot of people, was actually to keep their PCs turned on in their offices and access it via VPN and then go to the cloud. This way we ensure the security, because cybersecurity was one of the nightmares that we had as a management to really consider and make sure that we address that. Because when you take 570 employees to work from home, all of a sudden you have a lot more issues to worry about and security issues than you had to when we actually working from the office. Access to the source code, building our customers' deliverables, etc. So we actually had to work over the weekend also to secure our VPNs and make the VPNs available for all our employees. When we did all this technology, and what I call this is basically use the technology to scale your organization for the pandemic, we did all that. Then we had to worry about, we need to relaunch our work and our company working from home. We have to energize our people. We have to communicate with our people, because we need to communicate very clearly to our employees that this is not a vacation. You're not going to on a holiday. You really have a lot of responsibility working from home. So communication became tremendous importance. Clear communication, continuous communication, transparent communication was critical for us. And we were communicating continuously. And having that collaboration platform like Microsoft Teams, we actually spent, again, all this happened over a weekend. So we were really working very hard that weekend, 48 hours to maybe 76 hours. What we also did is we created a lot of channels. The nice thing about Microsoft Teams is the infrastructure allow you to create different channels on the different. So we looked at creating communities. And first of all, we wanted to continue to preserve the community at Path Solutions as a company. So we all talk to each other. And also we needed to create a sub-communities for the developers for certain subjects like the digital, like the intelligence. So we were actually creating a lot of these channels and adding different people to these channels to make sure that we keep those communities and keep this is happening. So we got the infrastructure ready, we got the collaboration ready. Now the employees are coming online in the beginning of the week. And everybody's worried about the pandemic, about their families, about the challenge of humanity that we were facing. And this is where we had to, as a company, to demonstrate how thoughtful we are. And we really do not only say it, but we do believe about the safety of our employees. So basically, before even the countries and the governments forced us to move out of the offices, we get the remote environment ready, and we start moving people to work remotely. So we never had to be forced to move remotely. We're always ahead of the game because we cared a lot about the safety of our employees. In addition, of course, for us, one of the biggest challenges was the geographic distribution. We had a large office in India, we had a large office in Beirut, we had an office in Kuwait, in Egypt, Pakistan. And each country had, first of all, they were on different levels with the pandemic. If you remember, India in the beginning had no pandemic. Now, as Brother Mustafa said, it's one of the worst countries when it comes to the pandemic. So different countries had different reaction, and some of them were late in responding. Some of them, they actually did not have the pandemic early on in March and February and March. So we had to adjust our strategies based on the geography we're in, which means we had to be completely informed about the local environment and what's happening locally. And we had to know and follow. And I was personally following the news locally in each city we are operating in to make sure that that first of all, understand what's going on in that city, make sure we are responding to what the regulators and the government is telling us to do, and taking care of our employees in these cities. So that, again, a challenge we had to address. Another challenge that we needed to address very quickly, which is basically the availability of cash to our employees. As you know, having money early on in the pandemic with the closures and all that was very critical. So we actually called our banks and make sure, and you know, Beirut is going through financial crisis, and we have a lot of employees in Beirut, and they were actually not able to get money through ATMs. And so we went in and talked to our banks and made sure that, okay, we're transferring to you fresh money from outside of the country. You better make sure our employees are priority and they are getting their fresh money and they are getting it in dollars. And that actually became a huge benefit for our employees, for example, in Lebanon, because they are some of the few employees in the whole country who actually had fresh dollars and were able to benefit out of the financial crisis versus the financial crisis actually hurting them. So that also we managed. And a final point on the management is, and we noticed it very early on, is the new employees. we found out that the new employees, when we used to hire them before the pandemic, we used to take care of them, nice orientation. Then we basically couple them with or peer them with somebody senior, and we keep communicating, and they feel the culture and all that. All of a sudden, you're getting a new employee, and he's sitting home. So very early on, we had to connect that new employee to some seniors, and we continue to talk to him and kind of like make him feel part of the family and part of the culture. These are some of the things that we as management had to deal with in a Path Solution early on in the pandemic and throughout the pandemic. I think I'm out of time, so I'll stop right here.
Most welcome, Mohammed Bey. Shukran for really good explanation of the shifting to meet the requirements of new normal of business management. Let's say something like this. Shukran for these experiences are very important that you mentioned. So to go to Malaysia again, and then new speaker also come Ilham Bey from Turkey. But now, as Rizwan Bey make this second and detailed speak about the management of time or company or environment and or project management, how he experiences. We like to hear you from Rizwan Bey.
Thank you, Brother Mustafa. I think what Brother Muhammad Khatib has shared and Dr. Safa have shared is really interesting in terms of the aspect of how management and the approach and the mindset needs to be adjusted accordingly because of the pandemic. And one issues that we realize specific to the impact of the pandemic was the psychological effect of distinguishing between work and personal life when you are working from home. I think that aspect is something new that many of us did not actually, maybe a lot of us take for granted last time because we used to work in office and our focus is really on the work. And then when we come home, most of the time we focus on the family. But suddenly when uh, we are asked or we are compelled to work from home, this is where a lot of people, especially from those who are working with me, struggle to distinguish between what is working, when is to work, and when is to focus on family. And the dynamic is rather confusing because your employer expect you to work because they know you are uh, able to have internet and have access to laptop all the time. But your family is seeing you in the house, sitting there, and they expect you to respond to their demand, especially if you have very young family. I'm a bit lucky because my families are a bit more mature. My youngest is already 17 years old, and my wife is working. But the struggle is we are all fighting for the internet bandwidth in the house. So that's another thing that we need to deal with. But coming back to the psychological effect, what we have done is we introduce a concept of a recharge day. Every month we allow 1 day for every employee to just take 1 day of their choice, but they need to inform us in advance, at least 2 weeks in advance, that they will be at home but not working. And this will allow them to focus on the family, on the needs of whatever that they need to do at home, and perhaps educate their family members about what's the environment now. And we thought that was quite successful because a lot of our employees are keen to do that, and they took it up, and a lot of them were happy with that kind of arrangement. The other thing that we did was we also introduced, for those who have been working with us for more than 4 years, we asked them to think about taking a sabbatical leave for 4 weeks for them to focus really, because these are people who have been working with the company for a very long time. And I think it is fair for us to give them attention because definitely they are key parts of the business. So we offer them to take 4 weeks sabbatical whenever they want it, so that they would be able to really focus on what they need to do, recharge themselves, make sure that their family are well aware of the situation at this point of time. And we also allowed, the third thing that we allowed was, we also allowed for mothers, whenever they are pregnant or about to take maternal leave, we allow them to take maternal leave up to 12 months, to allow them to make sure that they really can focus for the upbringing of the newborn as well as the children that they already have. And but the thing that we probably are now doing, also thinking about it as an after effect, is we also need to focus on the fathers, because they need to help the mother in terms of managing the newborn. And this is something that we are now trying to infuse into the scheme, so that the family can really work together to make sure that their state of mind is really focused. The reason why we focus on this is because if an individual is having a comfort of the support of their family, whether they are women or whether they are men, I think that would be very productive for the company, and for the workplace. And we can be very certain, to a certain extent, in terms of their commitment, in terms of making sure that productivity level are up to a certain standard. If we don't take care of their mental state, we don't take care of their relationship with their families, I think the pandemic really would destroy their focus and their ability to adjust. Recently, when our government in Malaysia announced about the lockdown, one surprising aspect that they also shared was the number of mental health issue that has actually increased throughout the lockdown, especially because of the pandemic, and the number of suicide cases that has happened. Because a lot of people are really stressed out, living at home, no support, not able to socialize and go out, and no guidance in terms of how they need to psychologically adjust themselves. I mean, physically, you can actually see the changes that people go through, but mentally and psychologically, this is something that needs to be shared and needs to be discussed and guided by those who know how to do this. Hence, in our company and our community, especially the fintech community, although people are used to work from home, but the aspect of psychology and mental state are the focus that we have now. I'll stop there, and inshallah, I'll share more after this. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Thank you for your valuable sharings and contributions. Yes, this is psychological side, very important. Even nowadays, I realized that we are in hidden depression. And depression already hidden something. So I just asked one of my group in WhatsApp, my close friends, do you feel something depression in generally about the people? They said not about the people. They say myself, I feel no happiness about anything. One of my friends say itiraf, yani claim and say openly, I don't feel anything that happens. So this is something interesting, Rizwan Bey. In general, I said that in the world, depression level hidden or clearly level up. For me, this is for my opinion. Not for me, my opinion, but for me as well. So let's continue to Ilham Bey. Welcome, Ilham Bey, as we just completed second stage. So for this two stages, we would like to hear you in combined ways. That short introduction about you, your companies is around the world. As far as I know, around the world, you have branches. For example, very interesting branch is one of this during the pandemic is, I think, Indian branch of you. So how you are managing how your latest news, how you are managing offices and projects, We would like to hear a little about your short introduction and then company management introduction, if you like to share other considerations as well.
Hi, thanks for inviting me to this event, Mustafa. Hello to all contributors. Telenity is a global telecom vendor. We work with mobile operators around the world. We have an office in headquartered in Istanbul, but we have an office in Connecticut, USA, Delhi, India, and Dubai. I think the pandemic had various impacts on our customers, on our workers, and their families. In general, my sector, the telecommunications sector, somehow enjoyed this ride. There is a growing use of telecommunications products. So most of our customers are in good condition. So that's a little bit lucky. When your customer is not in good shape, there's not much you can do. In that sense, we are lucky. Doing business has changed obviously quite a bit. And I can probably divide it in two. One is getting new business, and the second is managing existing partners. Getting new business is a somewhat of a challenge. I mean, usually the existing vendors will continue grabbing new business in the accounts that they work, because it has been much more difficult to start a new relationship, especially in our region, in the MEA region. Personal touch is very, very important. Establishing trust is very, very important, and it's not so easy to establish these via remote means. Hopefully, when the travel restrictions start being removed, we will have a better touch with our customers. So usually it's more sales to existing customers that doesn't have access to new vendors as well. But I think we did quite a bit positively in the sense of managing existing customers. Due to the area of technology that we cover, we are also working in 5G. And in 5G world, people are somewhat encouraged by the teachings of this pandemic. In many senses, 5G expectations for late 2020s, some business methods for that was targeted for 2030s became realistic now. I mean, right now our grandmothers are using Zoom, you know. I mean, that would have been a big teaching of 5G. You don't need to teach anybody using technology anymore. So pandemic forced people to use them much earlier than expected. And in the sense that reaching the customers, although there is no face-to-face with the customers, it became much more organized, both inside the company and with the customers. scheduling a meeting because they don't do anything else became very, very organized. I mean, the percentage of being able to schedule a meeting with someone who you had trouble in the past get very high. And then attendance to those meetings are almost 100%. Usually, I mean, I remember days when you would attend meetings with 40, 50, 60% attendance of the invitees. Many people who said the last day that they are going to come wouldn't show up because there is some immediate thing that they need to attend. Well, I mean, unless you change diapers of your kids, there is not much to attend around you. So these things have become very, very productive. I just for this meeting I collected our project managers, who are the key people, obviously, post sales. They said all positive things about their experience in this year and a half. Especially in the Middle East region, we always had trouble doing things electronically. Send 10 people, send 15 people to touch this button. So we would schedule flights and apply for visas and whatnot. I mean, for the one year and a half, nobody's traveled. And things are going flowing as well as before, if not better. So all the customers learned how to deal with vendors doing things from the other part of the world. So in that sense, I think our way of reaching the customers, other than sales, obviously, and marketing, improved quite a bit during this pandemic. Probably 5 to 10 years of development fit into a year and a half.
Shukran, İlhan Bey, thank you about your sharings, your explanation, always touching some points that make us a little smiling as well, because of you are finding interest.
Well, maybe I should also tell a little about the employee happiness during this. First of all, it's a mixed bag. I mean, many people are very happy with being with their families, but not all. I mean, the connection is shared with 2, 3 kids who are trying to learn math or geography. Not only that, they just run into the room. I mean, in the most serious meeting, you have someone running through the room, maybe late to something, your kids or whatever. I think eventually everybody found a semi-office in some corner of living room or a dining table or whatever, but it's not something you can keep going. So as soon as this thing is over, some things have to change. In Turkey, I was in a hackathon last week, looking for startups finding ways to make life easier for these remote access. One company came up with an idea. I don't know if this is applicable or feasible, but they are talking about workplaces working like Airbnb houses, like you have an office in, and it is usually over planned, right? So you have 100 people working. Most likely, you will need 50 or 60 tables after this thing. Most likely, we will settle with 40, 50, 60% office, 40, 50, 60% home. kind of work, so your offices will be half empty. I know many companies in Turkey are moving into smaller offices. But there is this idea that came that you can rent out your unused office space for the people who live around your office, who need an office space, but around their home. So rather than sharing the home with wife or kids, you can go to this office and use their office space. But the much bigger challenge I can see is social. I think, and I saw many presentations about how to make friendship with the office workers using some games during the work hours, 2 hours, 1 hour or 2 hours of games played with your colleagues, so that you can connect with them or whatnot. But it's not going to replace your everyday coffee breaks and chatting in the corridors. And that I would assume that really adds to, if there is any depression that Mustafa was talking about, that could contribute to depression. And if this pandemic was going to serve another 5-6 years, I would think most of our remote connections would be to our psychiatrists and psychologists. I mean, people need interaction with their friends. Most of our social life is formed around our friendships at office. We need something to replace that.
Sure, İlhan Bey. Shukran also touched to the social side of and general of living, worker livings, and it is interesting also Airbnb style of office renting because of security, info security or other project security and company privacy or kida. So let me enter our last session. I would like to ask also your closing remarks about today's meeting as your last messages and conclusion messages. And Safa Hanım, we would like to continue with you.
Yeah, I would like to speak a little bit before the conclusions about Al-Quds University managing this crisis and what we do for e-learning, because my colleagues here are all in companies and they had different situations that we are facing because we have lots of students and we had lots of challenges during this pandemic, and how we transformed the life of our students and our colleagues teaching academic staff and so on. But to give you an idea about Al-Quds University, which is in Palestine, it was founded in 1984, and we have 4 main campuses. We have 1 main campus in Abu Dis, and we have a campus in the old city of Jerusalem. We have in the Sheikh Jarrah, in Beit Hanina, and in Ramallah. And we have about 15 colleges, 29 institutes, and we have about 12,500 students and 1,200 employees. And they were all running a different life, as you all said, during this pandemic. So we had to do like different cells of committees to handle this situation. We had an emergency committee which was concerned with the epidemiologic situation and feeding the administration with the academic systems in information related to the pandemic and what's going on, so that we can do decisions accordingly. We had another committee from the academic affairs, the deanship of the students, and the council of the students themselves in order to overcome obstacles of the students and provide them with the technical background, technical infrastructure, and any problems, because we have financial problems for the students, for they cannot pay the fees or they whatever situations, because we had a really complicated situation, as I said, in Palestine and in the whole world. But also we had this another committee which did like progress and progress reports and compensated for the clinical part, where people have to do some practice, the students I mean have to do practical laboratories or have to do clinical in the medical complex and so on. So we had to have a committee for that. And we had also another committee for the master thesis, because usually master thesis students should come into the university and do their graduation projects, but this wasn't possible. We had also another committee for the evaluation of the assessment of the students, because when you do an electronic assessment, you don't know if the students are cheating or they are opening the books and so on. So we had a committee also for the evaluation criteria and the tools. So as you see, the whole management of the university was converted to different committees, helping them in this pandemic, in order also to help the students and their families and their parents, and even the ministries, that we are doing we are still doing a high quality education system, so that our diplomas are still recognized and so on. So this is, as Mr. Ilhan here said, we had an increase in the number of attendance for lectures. Usually the attendance of the students is less than 70%, but now it increased to 95% of the students attended lectures, because as he said, they are at home, they are not going out with their colleagues, for example, here and there. So we had a higher percentage of attendance for lectures and also higher attendance for registration for the successive courses. And we had, as a university administration, we had to take care of the technology infrastructure, which is the base of our discussion here, that we had to provide technology platforms to carry out the distance learning. We used the Zoom, but not only the Zoom, we had the learning management systems that we use. We have the like each course was transformed into the e-class, what we call the e-class, the electronic class system, using Moodle and using other things to provide the students with the resources that they need. We had also the registration system to be done all online for each student to access through their portals, and we had to have all the lectures online, and also as for the students to study again and repeat this lecture that maybe they missed or they didn't understand. So we had like the lectures was synchronous and asynchronous, so people can go back to the lectures. So now we have teras of lectures registered online, which was also very good. We have like a bank of questions for exams, which we didn't have before. And we have lots of advanced in the use of technology inside the university. But we also worked on enhancing the academic capabilities of the academic staff. So we worked on the academic staff capabilities and the distant learning. We did lots of trainings for the faculty members themselves. We did some trainings for the students themselves, how to use this technology and what they needed also. But the process is still ongoing and needs much development, because we still we are still looking for how are we going to continue in the future. So because of the challenges that we had, as I said, the quality assurance of education, this is a very important issue that was a real challenge for higher education institutes institutes, I think, all around the world before the pandemic. And today it's also twofold, as neither the age nor the depth of the experiment can be a basis for measurement and evaluation. Did we do the right thing till now using the online distant learning? What should be done, and how can we develop this thing? So higher education institutes in Palestine have to build on their accumulated experience and knowledge in the field of e-learning. They have to work hard to benefit from the experiences in solving these problems for which e-learning can provide effective solutions. And this requires the enactment of laws, regulations, instructions that regulate the process and can also be recognized locally and internationally. So we have to work lots of things about that. We have to stress that we need to build a community of support a network around us. We have to accelerate the completions and adoptions of the e-learning systems within a Palestinian norm, and to work with the Arab international normative references in order to enhance this education process. We have also to know that e-learning is not a substitute to face-to-face education, as Mr. Ilhan said also. So we cannot simply go only online. We have to go back to face-to-face education, but rather use the e-learning, the using of technology learning systems as a support for the education. And also, we have to work with the Ministry of Education and Higher Education and Scientific Research in order to digitize the education and work on the digital transformation that is necessary, and provide the necessary infrastructure and technology to save this trend going on worldwide. And we have to continue to train teachers, academic staff on designing educational content. We have to use the appropriate assessment methods in e-learning. And we have to also to strengthen the cooperation between higher education institutes and use the good practices. And for women, because I have always to go back to speaking as a woman, and I always am proud of the women achievement in different organizations in Palestine. We didn't have time to speak about some women leaders in Palestine because of the subject also and of the time limit. But we have also to speak here to stress to build a community of allies, as I said, and network support for women through their career. And we have to help women to overcome some gender bias to produce exceptional science relying heavily on support networks. We have also to teach women to be entrepreneurs in their business and in politics also, because we don't have enough leaders in business and politics. And we have to have more empathy and better management dealing with the human in such times of pandemic and disasters. So there are, as you said, psychological effects and things that we have to handle. But I know that women are more flexible and reliable and dedicated. So women power is getting stronger. So I tell women, don't be shy. You have to have your self-esteem, a high self-esteem, and trust in yourselves. So the world is changing, and still will change, as I said. So we have to give ladies the right education and help them to achieve their goals through different means. So I tell my women, also the men, the same thing. Be who you want to be, regardless of your gender, and collectively we can achieve more. And here I finish my talk. Please.
Dr. Safa, shukran today, your contribution, and many salam to the Palestine as well, as our wishes as heartily, about Palestine as well. So Shukran again. And then, as with including closing remarks, we would like to hear you, your last session speech, Mohammed Bey. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm going to say some controversial things in the end of my speech. I'm not going to make any judgments, but when we moved to remote working, and we all very impressed with the last year results of how smooth, how interactive, collaborative, everything was working very well. There was prerequisites for that to happen. You needed good management, making sure that people actually follow up on the tasks and making sure that your employees are continue to be productive and engaged. I worry when everybody says everybody's showing up to the meeting. I'm worried really that they are showing up to the meeting to show that they are working, because that's the only way they can show that they are working is show up to these meetings. So I wouldn't take that as very completely positive, coming from a person who hates meetings. And I think that our employees should be doing something else other than sitting in meetings. So that's one of the good prerequisites. The second prerequisite is responsible employees who have the culture, who develop the culture, understand your company, understand your culture, their hard work, they believe in your vision, and etc., etc. And good work ethics. If people don't have a good work ethics, they will be sitting watching TV all day and just basically having the computer or the collaboration tool on, and they just responding to some chats with the other employees pretending they're working. Now, if we look at those three, good management, responsible employees, and good work ethics, my thesis here and what I'm saying is we developed this over the years from being in the office. We developed all this from working together in the office. The only way you can judge if remote work actually is better or can compete with working in the office is when you get those new employees and the youth out of college and put them through working from home for so many years, and then see what kind of employee they will be after 5 or 10 years. And that is for us to see. So I wouldn't be quick in judging, because we could be living on the benefits of working in the office now that we are working from home, because we developed that culture and those kind of employees. And another thing to watch very, very carefully is what's going to happen in the next year and the year after. Is there a curve where basically the first year it's a new environment, everybody has to prove that they are working, everybody has to participate? Now that you're sitting home for 2 years or 3 years, is the curve in productivity is going to go down? How do you measure productivity? How do you measure completion of task? All this is very critical for the businesses to understand and analyze. And we at Path Solutions spend a lot of time in analyzing our productivity, our quality of work, to understand how we can actually proceed into the future, which we believe it's a new normal. We definitely don't believe that the world is going to completely go back to the pre-pandemic, but this new normal, I don't think a lot of people still understand it. And I think there's a lot of analysis and studies has to be done to understand how we have to act in this new normal. That's really my concluding remarks on the subject.
Shukran, Mohammed Bey, and in all this session, you contribute well. Thank you for your valuable contribution and experiences about your company and culture infrastructure. So far, you did. It's great to hear from you. And let's continue to the Malaysia, Rizwan Bey again, and then Rizwan Bey, I'd like to hear you, including your closing remarks as well.
Thank you, Brother Mustafa. And it's really interesting to hear Dr. Safa and Muhammad Khatib in terms of your perspective. I would want to also more or less talk about what Brother Muhammad has mentioned. And one of the things that I've started to see is the gap is widening in terms of those who are considered as knowledgeable and those who are considered as not so knowledgeable, because in the time and age where you are sitting at home, like what Brother Muhammad Khatib said, there's no real motivation or methods to supervise in terms of how you gain knowledge and continue to improve your capabilities. When you work in the office last time, you at least see that your colleague are working, and your bosses are all around in terms of making sure that at least everybody is improving as they attend and come to the office. But when you are at home, you are not actually going to be judged or not going to be supervised directly like when you were in the office. And this is where those who fail to adjust and not adapting quickly would quickly fall behind, and those who can adapt quicker would be able to then make sure that they are up to the mark and improve as they stay at home. And this is largely because, not just because of behavior, but the amount of information and data that needs to be processed, and the speed of how data actually being given to us is also another contributing factor in terms of how this gap is widening. So this is really boils down to how enthusiastic and how motivated anybody in terms of doing what they do, whether they are a student, whether they are an employee, and whether they are own, boss to their own business, because it really boils down to your own self and self-discipline in terms of doing all sort of improvement. And the second thing is, like what Brother Muhammad Khatib said just now, what does productivity and effectiveness look like? This definition change as things go and depending on your function. If you are in the cost center of a business, productivity may not be clearly or cannot be seen to be measured effectively. So there's a struggle in terms of proving that you are really working and contributing to the larger agenda of the company or any organization you are with. And the third thing is, when it comes to the self-development or career development of anyone, there's now a struggle in terms of how you empower and how do you coach your employees. Sitting at home for more than a year now, how do you continue to understand what are their needs in terms of career development, their skill set development, and how do you empower them and coach them to the right direction? And the strategy and the tactics are going to be different. Last time you can call them, schedule a meeting, and maybe have an offsite for you to be able to understand what needs to be done. But nowadays, it's not possible. And the only platform that you can have a discussion with your staff or your workforce is through the platform that we are using now. And with this, you will never know whether they are truly empowered, because it's very, very subjective for us to measure the effectiveness of the program that you give to them. And this also would depend a lot on their own behavior and attitude in terms of getting whatever input and download that is given to them. And this determine whether they continue to be engaged by the work that they do, and continue to be spirited in terms of wanting to move themselves better and become a better contributor to the organization. So these three things are really something that I see are widening, and the gaps are getting bigger, because those who can really thrive and adjust do really well in this kind of environment, but those who struggle would really continue to slide faster because there's no supervision, there's no real monitoring, and very difficult for us to measure whether whatever that we do through this limited screen that we are looking at could be effective and could actually motivate them. So I'll stop there, and inshallah, if there's any question, I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Most welcome, Rizwan Bey. Shukran for your valuable contribution from Malaysia. Many salam to Malaysia as well. And then see you all today, contributors. I would like to see next events. We are as Digitalization TV and Faster Community. We have events even next week about banking, and then 1st of September Digitalization Award, and many others for startup and fintech domains as well, and including telecom price. So let me share and let me invite for his closing speech and closing remarks, including closing remarks. Ilham Bey, we would like to hear from you as last speaker, and then we are approaching 90 minutes, and as much as possible we are trying to in short and agile, and so far was really very nice contributions from Palestine, from Jordan, Kuwait, and Malaysia, and now from Turkey. Ilham Bey, we would like to hear from you.
Hi. I think I agree with Mr. Mohammed and Mr. Rizwan about the productivity and effectiveness is a very important thing. But what I maybe differ is I think we are getting to a better place in terms of measuring and applying those metrics. Whereas in the past, we would rely on a manager's understanding of what an employee needs to do and how much of that he's doing, and probably watching them from your window or over their shoulder if they are doing the right thing. And now that that semi-false security has taken away from us, we had to end up relying on more solid metrics. We had to start looking for those metrics. I mean, in Telenity, we are today different than a year and a half ago. We started searching for metrics to measure productivity and effectiveness. A year and a half ago, we didn't really think we needed them. I mean, I mean, he's working, he's doing his best, and that kind of stuff. So in that sense, it's going in the better direction. It's more output oriented and objectives, key results oriented measurements than before. A second area that I would like to argue in closing is I think this pandemic also helped us in continuing education. I mean, for the last 2-3 years, because of this automation and AI and everything, we have been very concerned that nobody will be doing what they are doing today in 5 years. And it's getting also shorter. I think 5 years from now, what you did will be obsolete in 3 years. And we have to, we were very worried about how to retrain our employees or the whole humanity, but every professional. Now it became very, very easy. I mean, in the last 6 months, we introduced lots of continuing education classes into our workplace practices. Whereas 2 years ago, we didn't really have any way of how to improve somebody's skills. I mean, get some training and this and that. Now it is much more embedded into the day-to-day practices. Now we have all these probably 10 times more available remote classes. You can get classes from MIT, Georgia Tech, Oxford, and we are putting in our employees' agenda for the next 6 months, learn this and this and this. So thanks to people like Dr. Safa, the universities, continuing education became embedded into our day-to-day life. So I think in that sense, I am also optimistic.
Shukran, İlhan Bey. I think Mohammed Bey has something to add. Mohammed Bey.
No, I definitely like what Brother Ilhan said, and I do agree with him. What I worry about is not the metrics. We definitely need the metrics, and we develop the metrics. What I worry about is to have the people who actually can execute on the metrics and the people who can manage the metrics. That's the view that I worry about. Definitely focusing on the metrics is a must, because that's the only tool that you have, as Brother Ilhan said, to measure productivity. The problem is, does working from home develop for you the future leaders and the employees who can actually execute on the metrics and measure those metrics? That's my point.
Shukran for your additions also. And then let's close with a lady that today she really add many values to our meeting. First time she came, and really we are happy to host her in our meetings as pastor community. Lady Safa, we would like to hear from you as from in the name of all of us to closing the meeting.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be part of the Foster community, and I'm learning a lot from you, from all the events you are doing, and also from the articles that you are sharing, and from the colleagues in the different platforms in LinkedIn and WhatsApp. So it's really informative, and I'm learning a lot from you. And today here from the colleagues here, we learned a lot from the different environments, because we really have different environments, but we share the same, nearly the same cause, that it is the pandemic that is affecting us in our working environment. And we all share that we have to care about our employees. We have to care about the psychology that is different than the psychology of the employees and of our students, for example, in the university, because of the pandemic and because of the more use of technology. And we have to make use of the advantages that caused the pandemic caused. It as Mr. Muhammad started, it had said it had lots of advantages, but also we have to learn from the problems that we couldn't solve because we are not face-to-face, as Mr. Rehan also said, in the marketing, in the sales. Still people need to meet face-to-face. In some courses also in the university, we have meet face-to-face. Also working from home, as Mr. Aziz said, also there are some guidelines that we have to write, or some policies, how to work from home and how to continue the work, because really we passed a situation that we have to learn a lot from. We have in every domain, we have a new normal, and I'm telling all the people that we have a new normal. I cannot hear, we are going to the normal situation. No, there is no thing as we are going back to the normal situation. No, there is a new normal. We have to learn a lot from the what happened before, and we have to move ahead and develop our work using the new normal situation that we are living in. All the technology, use it as a tool for as a good tool, not because there are also advantages and disadvantages of using the technology, but to make use of the good side of the technology in order to enhance our life, first of all, make people more happy, and then develop our work and have more money also, because you are you want also more money. But also we have to care about the employees, and we have to take care about everyone. So that's all. Thank you very much again for having me part of this, and hope to see you in next events. Thank you very much.
Shukran for all your contributions and all audience to watch us during 90 dakika minutes so far, and then see you next event. We hope in good days after injections, also after new normal will be more and more good, inshallah. So see you again in our next events. See you. Masalama.
Bye.
If you want to stop the